The goal for this evening's presentation is to share some light on CBD oil and explain to you why HempWorks is different. Why not go to the pharmacy, to the health food store down the street? Why not buy online from Amazon or eBay or another location? And I tell everybody, I do these info events several times a week, and my main goal in doing these is to educate the public on CBD oil so that you feel like you can go out and make an informed decision on what you're looking for. I always start off my events with letting people know I am not here to actually sell you a product. I am not here to sell you HempWorks, but I am here to educate you. And I'm here to explain why I chose HempWorks. I do, like I said, these info events several times a week. I've done 4 in the last couple days. I'm a little tired tonight, but I've traveled. I've been down to Indianapolis. I've been up in Michigan. I've gone all over the place. I've gone into pharmacies and educated the owners, the staffs, the pharmacists. So this is a really important topic for me. And I know when I was looking for CBD oil last summer for my dog, I was completely overwhelmed on where do I go? Where do I get answers from? Where do I look? Where do I start? So being able to share this with you guys tonight, it's my passion. I love talking about it. I love educating people on CBD oil in particular, so that you guys are more informed on what is this? What should you be looking for? What do you need to know? How you should and shouldn't take it? How it works better than some of the other things that are out there and why. So looks like I've got quite a few of you on here. So after that's my intro. Look and make sure there's no questions just yet. Hey, everybody. Awesome. I'm glad that you guys are commenting, so I know that that's working. I don't know why it wasn't working earlier, so I'm sorry about that. So what I like to always start with is what makes us different. That's what we're here for tonight. I've got a lot of you on here, so I know that you're anxious to hear why we're telling you that HempWorks is different than everything else. So when I was looking last summer for CBD oil for my dog, I grabbed the first product I could find at a local smoke and vape shop. Wasn't really local. I drove an hour to a smoke and vape shop to find a product for my sick dog. I grabbed whatever they had on the shelf. I did not know there was a difference in ingredients, in the extraction process, in where the fields come from, different ingredients and what they do, how they're made, what they contain. So after I went to that smoke shop and got a bottle of what they had, I started to do my homework. I started researching, I started watching videos, I started reading every medical article and journal I could possibly find about CBD. I started asking a lot of questions, and I came across HempWorks. So what I've learned is the most important thing that you need to be looking for is the ingredient list in your CBD oil. For me, it was a no-brainer when I came across HempWorks because I knew I didn't want something with a lot of additives and fillers. I didn't want something with ingredients I couldn't pronounce or that looked cloudy and gummy and just toxic, for lack of better words. I wanted something pure. I wanted it organic. I wanted everything sourced here in the States, so I knew where it came from. And HempWorks checked off that list for me, every single one of those. So I did this video on my team, my affiliate team page last week, just to educate them as well. I always feel like as an affiliate of a company selling a product, you need to know what you're talking about. So this is what I showed them. I borrowed 2 bottles of CBD oil from my yoga instructor and friend who introduced me to HempWorks. She was the one that explained to me that there should never really be more than 2 ingredients in your product. Hey, everybody, I'll go back and check on comments in just a sec. But I want to show you this because I think it's really important. So what she educated me on was if you've got an ingredient list and it's more than 2 ingredients, you need to really look and see what those ingredients are. 9 times out of 10, they should not be there. Your product should truly only have 2 ingredients. Hemp oil is the carrier. It comes right from the hemp seed, so it's part of that same plant that all these cannabinoids come from that are in this product. And then the CBD extract. Those are your 2 ingredients. If for some reason you don't like the taste of the natural, we do offer peppermint. It's a natural peppermint extract, so it won't dilute or harm the quality of the product that you're getting. But for the most part, 2 ingredients, hemp oil as the carrier and CBD extract. So I'm going to do my little demonstration now. This is, I won't show you who it is because I don't feel like that's fair, but this is a bottle of, and I'm going to be backwards here. This is all the ingredients. This is the first bottle that she bought online. She spent $180 on this bottle. It's a 1-ounce bottle. They claim it's 1,000 milligram, $180. And when you open it up, if y'all can see that, Can you see where the oil sits right on the top and the rest is gummy and cloudy and absolutely disgusting? This was her $180 bottle of CBD oil. In it are ingredients I can't pronounce. I honestly don't know what almost all of them are, and it has a proprietary blend that says essential hemp oil and other flowers and ingredients. It doesn't explain what it is. It doesn't look like something I would want to put in my kitchen drain, let alone in my mouth, and hope for a health benefit to it. So $180 for that bottle. It's online. This was the second one that she went with. Again, to be fair, I won't show you the name of the company, but this is their ingredient list. I know you can't see it, but again, it is full of additives and fillers. This was the second bottle that she came across before she found HempWorks. If you're ready for this, this one is actually worse than the first one I showed you. It's gummy, it's cloudy, it looks like a mix of honey and candle wax. This is what is at all of our, I'm up in Northwest Indiana, this is what our local health food stores are selling. There's a chain of health food stores throughout upper Indiana, all the way into central, upper northern Indiana. This is their #1 product that they're selling. So for those of you that want to see what it should look like, this is HempWorks. This is, I'm always backwards on these. This is our 500 milligram bottle. 500 means there's 500 milligrams of CBD in that 1 ounce bottle. There's 1,000 drops in this bottle. And again, there's 2 ingredients. So this is what your oil should look like, if I can get close enough. I'm so backwards, like sideways. Can you guys see that? It's clear. It's got color to it, but it's translucent. You can see through it. It's not going to clog my drain if I was to put it in my kitchen sink. So here's my comparable. You guys can see this one over here where my pinky fingers flail around. That's us. It's got a light green hue to it. This is the other one. So it kind of shows you right off the bat why we're different, what that should look like and what it shouldn't look like. If you're buying a product that you cannot read the ingredients to, really consider what you're buying. There's some that contain xylitol. Xylitol is fatal to your dog. So if you give that CBD oil to your dog, you can kill your dog. A lot of people don't know that. It's what's in gum. So you'll hear a lot of horror stories about people that their dog found their chewing gum, ate it, and ended up in the emergency room or passed away. It's because it contains xylitol. So your oil should not have xylitol in it. A lot of people in this area are promoting another product, and they claim that it's the best because they're water soluble. So water soluble is a big one for me. What they claim is that it absorbs better because they've made it water soluble, which means it mixes with water and it will absorb into your system better, per their words. With their water soluble product on their website, it says that they have it, I believe it's an 85% absorption rate. Water soluble also means that they use a lot of harshness and chemicals in that oil to make it water soluble. Those solvents and those toxins that they use to make it water soluble stay in your product, and then they end up in your system. So if they're promoting water soluble in your area and they're claiming it's got the best absorption rate, theirs has an 85% absorption rate as a water soluble CBD oil. Ours has a 98% absorption rate without being water soluble. You use it right under your tongue is what we call a sublingual. So you put it under your tongue and it absorbs right into your bloodstream at a 98% absorption rate. There's no toxins, there's no solvents, there's no chemicals, there's no water soluble issues. People ask me all the time, is your product water soluble? And the first thing I tell them is no, and I don't want it to be. I don't want it. Have you ever seen oil mixed with water? No, it's not in its natural state if it's doing that, which means man has created it to be water soluble. Not the best way to have your CBD oil. So I wrote notes down. I do this so often that I want to make sure I cover everything. Another ingredient people talk about a lot is MCT oil in their product. Actually, the two that I showed you both claim they're water soluble, and they both claim to have MCT oil. MCT oil is man-made by a process called fractionation. So it's an actual palm or coconut oil that man, of course, goes in and works its magic on and fractionizes it and uses that as water solvents and toxins to make that MCT oil. So again, those solvents and toxins stay in your product, end up in your system. I did a presentation to a pharmacy recently, and they carried another brand, which was fine. I wasn't going in there to make him change his mind. I was going in there to educate the staff. Their oil contained MCT oil. So I told him that the side effects to MCT oil are stomach aches, stomach cramping, diarrhea, and vomiting. And his response was, yeah, I heard something about stomach cramps before. He still carries the product. I did what I thought I could do best and teach him what he needed to know. But MCT oil is another one that you really want to look for on the ingredient list and find out what's in it. So I see you all are commenting like crazy, so I appreciate that. I'm going to scroll through and make sure I'm not missing any questions before I go on. Yeah, Ranjali says the product that she got at a vape shop made her mouth sore. And that's another thing too. I've had a few people that may want to go out and explore after they've tried HempWorks, and they go out and they try another product as a comparable, my customers. And I encourage that because they come back to HempWorks every single time. I just talked about this on a live the other night, but I had a faithful customer since February. She's been buying our 750 milligram bottle for fibromyalgia. She had amazing results. And then she ended up on a little bit of a budget, so she decided to find something cheaper. So she went online, she went and bought a really cheap bottle of oil, and it enhanced her inflammation threefold. So she came in and she told me that she learned her lesson really quick. She thought that it was a comparable product for a better price, and it wasn't. It actually enhanced her inflammation. So had another person, same thing, panic attacks that she was using this for. She's PTSD, she's postpartum, bipolar, has a lot of issues, and she was using our oil and she ran out. So she went to a local shop, smoke shop, to get what they had, and it caused a panic attack. The products in it, the ingredients. So again, I can't stress enough how important that is to make sure that you're doing your homework and you're reading these labels. Works is what I came across last fall, and I've not found anything else comparable as far as the ingredients and what's in it and what it doesn't contain, thank God. So what else? Oh, we always talk, you'll hear people talk a lot about full spectrum and isolate. So full spectrum, what that means, depending on the research that you review, there's between 80 and 120 what we call cannabinoids in the hemp plant. CBD is only one. There's actually up to 120 of these little cannabinoids in this plant. So full spectrum means all of those cannabinoids are extracted. They're put into this oil together. They all work together. And the reason why this is oh so important is because we have what's called an endocannabinoid system. So for lack of better terms, I always say that this is, receptors, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of receptors throughout the body. And that system, this endocannabinoid system, hey Miranda, hey guys. So this endocannabinoid system is what actually controls and regulates everything in our body, from pain, inflammation, behavioral issues, hormone issues, sleep issues, skin issues, fighting off disease. Every single thing you can think of, the endocannabinoid system regulates. If it also requires cannabinoids to function properly. So the whole goal of this full spectrum oil is that it goes in as like an entourage effect where all of these cannabinoids have a job or a task, let's say, and every single one of those is responsible for certain receptors. So you want full spectrum. It's the best oil that you can possibly take. Sorry, my phone's buzzing. Like I said, up to 120. They all go into this endocannabinoid system. Every single mammal on the planet has an endocannabinoid system. Dogs, cats, pigs, sheep, goats, rats. I have a customer that gives it to her pet rat. It's absolutely amazing. So when you add, and I always kind of touch on this briefly, I know that I've done kind of longer videos about this, but the importance of this whole endocannabinoid system requiring cannabinoids is that I always say our ancestors actually had healthy endocannabinoid systems, because in the United States alone, let's say, our food source used to graze on hemp all the way up until 1937 when we banned it in this country for various reasons. Why that's important is that our food source, I always use cheeseburger as an example. I don't know if our great grandparents in the 1920s and 30s ate cheeseburgers, but let's say they did. That cheeseburger was full of cannabinoids because that cow was eating hemp. Their bodies weren't designed to eat the stuff we feed them now, soy and corn and grain and garbage and leftover food. Their bodies weren't equipped to process and digest those foods. They were designed to digest and process hemp. So our food automatically had CBD in it. So when we're eating this cheeseburger that came from a cow that ate the hemp, our body stayed balanced. This endocannabinoid system stayed balanced. we banned it, and now up to almost 90 years later, you see this influx of disease and behavioral issues, especially with children that are being pumped full of chemicals to regulate behavioral issues. This is all secondary to the ban of hemp in this country back in 1937. So you start to see an inundation of disease and inflammation and ailments, words that we didn't hear of even 30 years ago. I don't know that fibromyalgia and neuropathy and celiacs, even ADHD and ADD, all of these issues that we have so much now weren't prevalent then. And it's kind of a side effect that we're getting. You start to see more and more of a depletion in this endocannabinoid system where it's not functioning properly. So I think that's really, really important to understand. Why CBD? Why does it work for everything? I get that question all the time. How can this one bottle work for behavioral, work for hormonal, work for skin issues, work for sleep issues, work for autoimmune issues? How does this take care of everything? That's how it works. So that's why full spectrum, my little long tangent there, why full spectrum is such a big deal. That you get all these cannabinoids that go back into these endocannabinoid systems that what I call are depleted or starving, for lack of better words, because they haven't been fed and fueled properly. This is a part of our daily life that needs to be incorporated, that everybody should be taking in some form. People will ask me all the time, so if I take this and I feel better, can I stop? I made the response one time that if you you go to a buffet and you eat a meal until you're stuffed to the gills, are you never going to eat again because you're full? This is the same thing. Your endocannabinoid system requires us to function properly. If people are worried about this full spectrum, one of the cannabinoids in this product is THC. It is one of the cannabinoids from the hemp plant. It's a very, very, very low amount to be federally compliant. You can't have more than 0.3% trace of THC. HempWorks has under 0.03%. So we're well within the federal guidelines or federal threshold to be legal. But some people are worried about that with drug testing. I always recommend, because what I always tell people, it should not cause a positive. However, it can. It does contain THC. So if your fat cells in your body like that THC, maybe a little more than some of the other cannabinoids, they can actually retain that THC and it can build up in your system and it could potentially cause a positive drug test. If there is concern for that, we do have the isolate CBD oil. So what isolate means is that we extract the THC and primarily focus on that CBD cannabinoid. Cannabidiol is what CBD is, but you lose the other cannabinoids in the process. So you may not get that entourage effect. I wasn't sure I was going to really talk much about the isolate when it was launched in May. I had a number of customers that work Northwest Indiana in the steel mills, in the hospitals, they're CDL truck drivers, they're union guys. They were concerned about this for drug testing. So I had them test it on their own. Our company offers a 30-day empty bottle money-back guarantee on website orders. So I would tell them if they wanted to try the isolate, order it off the site. If it doesn't work for them, they can return it. And luckily, every single one of them had great results. I've not had anybody return a bottle. It's doing just as well as the full spectrum. So it's a great choice for anybody that's worried about drug testing with work. So that's the difference between full spectrum and isolate. What else? Oh, so vaping is another one that we were going to touch on tonight. So people will always ask me, how do you take your product? We call it a sublingual. So it goes under your tongue, it absorbs right into your bloodstream, and you start low and slow, which is another thing I'll talk about in just a sec, what that actually means and why. So vaping, people ask me all the time, well, I vape it. I vape it. The vape pen to me can be kind of dangerous if you read the reports that are out on that. They're exploding in people's faces, they're exploding in pockets. It's a little temperamental. You're heating something up and then you're putting it in your mouth. So it's actually going into your lungs, which again, ex-smoker here, I don't want to put something in my lungs ever again. It took me a long time to quit. I just hit my 8-year anniversary. So I'm really aware of putting things right into my lungs, smoking things. So try not to do that. So vaping, when you vape a full spectrum CBD oil, there is that tiny little trace of THC. If you do not have a heat regulated vape pen, you're going to have no control over how hot that pen gets. And number one, that THC responds to heat, which means you're going to activate the psychoactive component in that THC, and it can potentially cause a high. Ingesting the oil under your tongue as a sublingual will not get you high. There's not enough THC in there to cause that psychoactive feeling. But if you're vaping it, you can have that happen. So my number one no-no on vaping is it can cause a high. If that's what you're looking for, more power to you. I don't know that that's the right thing to do for this, but you do have that possibility of that happening. The other thing is this plant does not like to be heated up. The oil does not like to be heated up. You break down the concentration of what you're actually getting if you add heat. So if you're putting this oil in a vape pen and you're inhaling it, you're breaking down what you're getting. So you might think, hey, I'm getting 500 milligram CBD oil. I've got, X amount of drops in this pen. You're breaking down the concentration by the heat of that machine. So it's kind of a misconception that people don't know about. So I think that's really, really important. People will always ask me too, can they put it in capsule form? Can they spray it in their mouth? Can they mix it in their food and take it that way? If you do that, it's not going to hurt you by any means. You can drink the whole bottle in one setting if you want. You're going to waste your money for one, and you're going to avoid the low and slow, which we'll talk about in a second. But if you do that way, your stomach acid is going to break down that oil, that product, before it's absorbed into your system. So again, you're going to lose the concentration of what you're getting. So it's really, really important. The best way to take CBD, HempWorks in particular, is under your tongue. And the extraction method, I'll talk about that next. We use, to extract the oil from the plant, we use CO2, cold press extraction, which means we don't use heat, we don't use solvents and toxins, we don't use chemicals. It's a natural process that keeps that plant and that product in the best form it can stay in. If you use ethanol, if you use butane, if you use any form of alcohol, for one, it's a form of a solvent that will stay in your product and end up in your system. But it also, again, breaks down the concentration of what you're getting. So you want to look for a CO2 cold press extracted product. You also want to look for the source of your hemp. HempWorks has hemp fields in Kentucky. They're FDA compliant. They're organic. They're non-toxic. We don't use pesticides. We don't use chemicals. Really important to make sure you know what is in your oil, your soil, where it's coming from. There's a lot of companies out there, they bring in their product from overseas and they don't have the restrictions and the regulations that we have here in the States. So some of their lab testing actually comes back with traces of drywall contaminant. That's how the hemp, if they're harvesting it indoors in an industrial hemp farm, it can have traces of drywall contaminant in it, which I've seen, which again stays in your system, ends up in your, or stays in your product, it ends up in your system. Sorry, my dog's here. That's not something that you want in your product. There's others here in the States, which I won't mention, but their lab reports show traces of arsenic and lead. Their affiliates will tell you that those are natural natural traces of minerals, or I can't think, my dog's distracting me, sorry. Natural products in the ground, in the soil, that plant is absorbing, that plant is absorbing as it matures and it grows. Those minerals stay in your product and end up in your body. So lead, arsenic, anything like that, you want to look for that. And a truly transparent company will have their lab reports and their testing public on their website. HempWorks has that. We have certificate of analysis for all of our products. We have lab reports and testing that you can go in and see. It's third-party tested. So you can go in and see those results, see on your own that we don't have what should not be in there, which is fantastic. But I think it's really important to know where that hemp is coming from. It's really, really important. I'm looking, Karen saying that her husband uses the isolate and loves it. Sorry, you guys, I've got almost 400 comments on here, so trying to scroll through them all while we're talking, but I want to make sure I touch on all of this at least, and then I can always go back after the fact and hit any questions that may not have been answered. What else? Source from? So this one's also really important. People always talk about the strength of their oil. I saw somebody post a question the other day that they were taking a 4,000 milligram CBD oil in vape form and it wasn't working, and they wanted to know why. So number one, when I went into the pharmacy recently and educated them, they were selling a 3-ounce bottle of 3,000 milligram CBD oil. What that actually means, CBD oil breaks down per ounce. So they were selling 1,000 milligram per ounce, which totaled 3,000 milligrams in a 3-ounce bottle. They were charging, I think it was $120 for that, but their customer thinks they're actually getting a 3,000 milligram product. They don't know that that's 1,000 milligrams per ounce. I saw another one that was 1,000 milligrams per 2 ounces. And this was at the pharmacy. When I asked them, do you realize this breaks down per ounce? And they were like, well, yeah, we heard that. But their consumer didn't know that. So the consumer thinks they're getting a 1,000 milligram bottle of CBD oil for $85, but they're really getting 2 ounces that are 500 milligrams each. So it's really good to go in and decipher and understand how to read that label. With the 4,000 vaping oil, again, we talked about vape, so I won't go over that again. But with the 4,000 milligram, what I read recently was that anything over 1,000 milligram, 99% of that time, it's an isolate. It does not have all of those full spectrum cannabinoids in that product. So it may say full spectrum, it actually is not. It's more than likely it's an isolate. So that's a consumer beware, I think, as far as, again, reading your labels and knowing what you're looking for. So what else? So this is our product too. Before I forget, we can use HempWorks as a sublingual, like I said, under our tongue, or as a topical. So if you've got skin issues, if you've got joint pain, I got stung by a wasp a few weeks ago right on my wrist. I put a drop on that, took the sting out immediately. The swelling went down. My dad's used it for poison ivy. I've had people use it for mosquito bites, anything like that. If it's, a pimple, a zit, if it's eczema, if it's psoriasis, you can use this product topically. If I get a kink in my neck and I wake up in the morning and it's just, I get trigger points from my herniated discs, and if I sleep wrong or do something stupid, they will flare up. So I will take a couple drops and put them right on that spot, and it's a game changer. It takes care of all the inflammation, the pain, the headaches, everything immediately. So topical as well. And then Barb Miller, who is a big part of this company, she had asked me to talk about why low and slow, as we say. So when you get started with a CBD oil, this is one of my biggest pet peeves. I go into the local health food store that sells that bottle of gummy stuff that I showed you earlier. There was an elderly man at the counter one day, and he had asked the girl behind the counter, how do I start taking this when I buy it? And of course, he bought the bottle of junk that they were selling. And she told him, oh, you just get a full serving and you put it right in your mouth and let it sit for a minute or two, and that's it. Not true at all. I was chomping at the bit not to try to explain to him why that was so inaccurate. My mom was with me and she said, you want to talk to him, don't you? I'm like, I do. It's not my store, so I'm not going to do that. But I really wanted to give him some really good information, and felt like I couldn't do that. So low and slow, why we say that. This endocannabinoid system we have that I mentioned earlier has been what I call starving pretty much all of our lives. I don't think anybody's on this thread that was born in 1937 or before then. So I think it's safe to say all of our bodies, all of these systems, and all of us have been extremely deficient and malnourished for our entire lifetime. So when you want to add CBD, the cannabinoids, back into that environment, they're desperately craving them. My best analogy, I have a couple. One of my favorite analogies is if you find a starving dog on the side of the road, that dog is skin and bones. It's on its last leg. It hasn't eaten anything, hasn't drank water in weeks and weeks and weeks. Are you going to go and sit him in front of a pot roast and let him pig himself out? No. If you do that, you're going to make that dog really, really sick, because that system's going to go into shock because it hasn't tried to break anything down or digest anything in such a long time. This is the exact same thing, only for our endocannabinoid system. So when you go in and you try to hydrate that thing and you think, well, I've got chronic pain, so I need a full serving twice a day. Number one, you're only going to absorb what you need and you're going to waste the rest. So my second analogy to follow up with that is if you've got cracked, dry hands and you take a full tube of lotion and you put those on those hands thinking that they're going to immediately feel better and that the cracking will go away, you only absorb what you can and you waste the rest. CBD oil for your endocannabinoid system is the exact same way. So if you start with too much and you think I need to go big or go home and I start at 20 drops right away, number one, you're going to waste a whole lot of it. You're going to spend a lot of money on it because you're not going to absorb all of that, and it's not going to be an immediate fix. You want to slowly reintroduce those cannabinoids back into that system to get it functioning properly and regulating all those receptors and getting everything back in balance. So hopefully that makes sense. What we always say is that you want to give it a week. Start at the 5 drops twice a day. You could do morning and evening. And then week 2, bump it up to 10 if you need to. You have to find what they call your sweet spot and see what works best for you. Everybody's different. There's nothing set in stone that every single person has to follow it this exact same way and it works for everybody that same way. Everybody's different. For me, I have herniated discs in my neck, I have scoliosis in my back, and I have PCOS, which is polycystic ovarian syndrome. 7 drops of the 500 twice a day worked perfect for me. It was morning and evening. I did that for probably 2 months. And then on my 4th month, I didn't realize the PCOS issues. Any ladies that are out there, I won't bore the guys with this, but lots of hormone issues and imbalance and things not working the way they needed to work. It took 4 months on CBD before all of a sudden that started working again. And that was not something that I was anticipating. So if I was somebody that was hoping that it helped with that and I only gave it 2 weeks, I would have missed it. I didn't give it enough time. So my inflammation and my pain went down within about 5 days. And then with the PCOS, it took a few months. So everybody's different. I have people with behavioral issues. Some of them it's overnight with just a couple drops. Some of them it takes a little bit more. I do tell everybody that with behavioral issues, make sure you start low, especially in children. If you start too high with too much, you can intensify that issue. So if you're looking at ADD, ADHD, anxiety, anything like that, you can actually intensify that issue if you take too much too quickly. So really low and slow is the best way to do it, and don't rush it. Just if you're trying to rush it, think of that starving dog, that if you're trying to make him gain 20 pounds overnight, you're going to do more harm than good. There's nothing harmful about this oil, but you want to do your body justice and go low and slow with it. That is the best way to take this product. So hopefully that makes sense. I'm looking to see, I'll check and see if there's any more. Looks like I have 430 comments on here, so I might miss a few of these. So I'm glad that you guys are all sticking this out. I'm almost done. Oh, good nuggets. Thanks, guys. Thanks you all for listening on this Wednesday evening. I really appreciate it. Your child's web. Russ, I don't want to specify on a specific company, but I will tell you, we do have a third-party competitor chart out there floating around, so maybe I'll see if we can post it on this page. But there are different additives and fillers, so that would be something that any other company that you want to look at, always, always, always look at how many milligrams of CBD are in that bottle. You want to look at if it's full spectrum. You really should look at their lab testing. They should offer that on their website. If they don't, you need to question why it's not there. If they say that they're full spectrum and their lab testing does not show all these different cannabinoids, that's deceiving. That's when it would be an isolate and not a full spectrum, which a lot of companies do that. You want to check, like I said, that ingredient list and see what's in there. I do have an ingredient list here with me with several different companies that are mentioned. I'll see if I can scroll through really quickly and just pick one that is important. So yeah, there's some that are flavored with all sorts of different additives and fillers. There's some that have orange oil, they have vegetable glycerin, sunflower oil. I'm literally just reading off oils from different companies. The one big one here in the area that's water soluble, they have, I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different ingredients in theirs. Also stevia, potassium sorbate, xanthan and acacia gum. They have a prebiotic. They have MCT oil, and they're water soluble. They say that they're full spectrum. Their lab doesn't show that. So those, and it shows traces of lead in their lab testing. So those are all things whenever you guys are out there, if you want to compare and you want to think, if you want to find something different, those are what you need to be looking for. For me, HempWorks was a no-brainer because it checked off every single box of what I was looking for. I've been with HempWorks since November of last year, so almost a year, and it's been amazing. I have no complaints whatsoever. I sleep better, I function better, my pain is gone. I don't have to worry about the additives, the fillers, the ethanol, the butane, or whatever else that they're using in that extraction process. So I think it's really, really important to make sure that you all know what you're looking for. So if you have any questions, you can reach back to the person that added you to this group. We do training live videos often. So I was excited when I got asked to do this one tonight because it's my favorite thing to go out and explain and talk about. So